So I thought I would record a little bit of a video about essay writing. So obviously one of the most important things in your essays and in your report is the knowledge that you show, the research that you bring in, and the content that you need to communicate in relation to the essay. But also the way you write it can really help your grade, and it can help you meet those skills that you need to meet for BTEC and for other courses, to evaluate, to analyze, to describe, things like that. So I've got an example here, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit and show you how I think an essay should be written. Obviously, this will be useful as well when you go to university, because most of you will do the type of courses that you will have to write essays. And an essay it's about answering the question that you've been set, and it's about relating it to the particular criteria that you have to fulfill. So no matter what you are writing or how well you are writing it, if you're not answering the question, the essay is not a good essay. So that's the most important thing, really. What I would say is I would make it look as neat as possible on the page, so you can justify your text. All you do is select it all and click this, and it makes it look all lovely and neat. This is a nonsense essay, by the way. It's 2 copies of an essay about chameleons and whether they're better than cats. So obviously it's not a realistic example, just to show you the format of how to write a good essay. I would say always put a title on the head of an essay, and underline it and put it in bold and things like that. If you're doing a report, obviously you will put titles between the sections as well as at the head. If it's an essay, you don't need titles, and you don't need to put the assessment criteria and things like that in the middle. Also, think about paragraphing. So probably the best way to paragraph an essay is to indent. And what that means is essentially you've got your paragraphs, and you indent by pressing the space bar 4 times between each paragraph. That's how I always do it. So here, 2 paragraphs, you just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that kind of looks a bit more like an essay, if you like. As I've said, if it's a report, you would put titles in between the sections as well. So this section could be called the relative merits of cats. And obviously the titles will link to whatever the criteria is and whatever the thing you are being asked. One of the biggest things in essays is obviously how you write, so the grammar and the spelling and things like that. You do not use the first person or I in academic essays. So you could say, the research shows chameleons are better than cats. You don't need a capital letter there. And then just go through this. The research shows chameleons are better than cats. Chameleons are easy to clean up after. Just take a cloth and pick up how would you change that? They're a mess. With cats, at first, it's missing an apostrophe because it is. Then they go to the bathroom in their litter box. Litter is spelled with 2 T's. The litter box starts to stink. As I said, this is a nonsense example. Then you have to clean this up, and more cat litter. I also think many also claim that chameleons are better because they eat cat food, crickets, superworms, learning so much, mealworms, waxworms, cockroaches, sweet fruit, soft vegetables, pinky mice and pinky rats, no idea what those things are, for cats, they have to have a special kind of food. Then you always have to go to the store to buy more. I'm going to be picky and say, shop. We're not in America. If the shop doesn't have the kind of food, you have to go to another pet store. Pet shop. Now use some reasons I like chameleons more than cats. This piece outlined a few reasons that chameleons, without the capital, superior to cats. I would avoid using doesn't, does not in that, instead, and contractions like that. Okay, so that first two paragraphs, I've cleaned up the spelling and grammar. It's not brilliant, but it's a lot better than it was. Obviously, it's a nonsense example, so we've removed the I, we've put a title, we've justified the text, we've indented so it looks a bit more professional on the page. And then the key is that you're obviously following whatever the criteria is asking you to do. What I would say is, if the criteria asks you to say, evaluate whether chameleons are better than cats, obviously, use the words in the criteria. So, in order to evaluate whether chameleons are better than cats, we should study the research. And then obviously you would use references and you would use research in order to justify whatever it is you're saying. And if you reference that, it does make your essay more, the evidence more tangible, and then your essay is obviously superior because you are not just making it up, you're not just using your own opinion, you're using the research to justify whatever it is you're saying. And in relation to the criteria as well, using the wording from the criteria clearly signposts to whoever is reading it that you are answering whatever you need to answer in the question. So, for example, I personally prefer cats to chameleons. So, when you go to a source and you want to use it as part of your research, you've got to think, is this source a good source? This is called helpguide.org. I would say this is not a particularly amazing source. It's just a random website, but it does contain some useful evidence. So, why cats make great pets? Cats are low maintenance, they're quiet, they're independent, they keep the house pest free, they have long lifespans. So we could take this piece of evidence, evaluate whether cats are better than chameleons or vice versa. Cats are independent. Okay. Some would say that cats are superior because they are independent and do not need as much looking after. So for someone who's busy, who doesn't have very much time to look after their cat, cats might be a superior pet. Some would say that cats are superior, so then we could cite this article because that is where we got that information. So we could say, okay, use cite this for me to Harvard reference. So we create citation, it's a website, and then we type in the URL or the link, and then cite the source. Continue. Okay, so this is the information. If it doesn't give you all of the information that's on the website, you can add it. So for example, if it didn't give you the author, you could write the author's name in. If it didn't give you the date, you can do that, but we can complete because it's given us it. Okay, so what you need is you need your citation, okay, and then you would create your reference list. Reference list, your references are in this reference list in alphabetical order. So obviously, Robert Siegel would be in R because, you know, it begins with R. And then anything before R would be above, and anything after R would be below. Your reference list is normally at the end of your work, and you would have a list of these. And what you're telling the person here is, this is where I got my information from. This is the research that I did. So it adds gravitas, as I said, to your essay. In your text, cite this for me, as we can see, allows you to copy the in-text citation as well. So you have to cite your sources in your text to show where you've used that particular thing that's in your reference list. You don't have to do copy and text citation because it's really easy. All you need to do is add the author's name and the date. So someone would say that Katz Superior, Siegel, 2023. Okay, because they are independent and do not need much looking after. So what you're saying there is you got this piece of information from this source. To be honest, I think his name's probably Siegel and his first name's Robert, but it doesn't matter for this occasion. We would normally only use the author's second name. So yeah, so that's what you would do to cite your sources, and you would do this all the way through, and then the reader knows that you've done this, that, and the other research during your essay. Another thing to bear in mind about essays is you write an intro and you write a conclusion. Normally, your intro would define any key terms that are relevant to the essay. So in this case, chameleons are better than cats. What is a chameleon? What is a cat? So that's the starting point. So a chameleon and then obviously go on to define chameleon and cat. And then in your conclusion, you would sum up what you've written. So in conclusion, some research claims that chameleons are better than cats. This is why. Other research, on the other hand, claims that cats are better than chameleons. This is why. And then obviously in conclusion you would say, on balance, based on the research that I've done, based on the research that has been done, because you wouldn't use I, it has been found that cats are better than chameleons. And this is why. Okay, and then you've come to a conclusion in your work. You've clearly answered the question, are chameleons better than cats? And you've given the reader something to show what the answer is to the question, right? There is no answer to a lot of the questions that we ask, but it's about the evidence. What does the evidence show you? Okay, so that's a bit of a video on how to write a good essay. Hope it's been useful. Thank you.